All right. Can you guys hear me? Just a thumbs up. You're not going to be able to. If anything, do yeah. Let's see. See if at an angle don't get so much the bad lighting. There we go. All right, guys, we're gonna give it a couple of minutes here. It's about 5:28, and we'll be starting shortly.
Hello, Frankie.
How are you? How are you, Steve?
Yeah, good. Good to see you.
Good.
Staying healthy, I see.
Likewise, good to see some familiar faces.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
All right, looks like we got about 11 or so folks joining. We had about 80 people register, so we'll give it a little bit here. Make sure we start on time.
Hey, Alex, didn't see you up there. How you doing?
Hello, buddy. How are you?
Doing all right. Keeping busy, trying to get through all of this craziness.
I bet. Are we all?
Hey, Lori. Oh, look at Josh. It's awesome. Let's start this one. We're about a minute away, guys. I'll give it a few more seconds here before we get going. Got close to about 15 to 20 people on right now. Just a lot of cool faces and names, because everyone's video's not on, but I see some and Jose, it looks like you are at a farm somewhere. That's awesome.
Just a lot of bull, Frankie. That's all it is, baby.
That's awesome.
It's definitely socially distant.
Yeah.
Especially at that end of the horse.
I've been called a lot worse by my wife in the last few weeks, so what the hell.
Awesome. Those of you that are on Facebook, you can go to our Facebook event listing, and that's how you can register to jump in on the meeting. We did a registration only, just to invest a little bit more in your responsibility on this one. We hope you guys will join in. All right. In the interest of time, I wanted to jump right in. I did share the agenda. You should have all received an email if you registered for the actual Zoom call. If not, some of our staff will be sharing it along the way through the group chat. The first and foremost, I welcome everyone. I am Frankie Ruiz. Those that don't already know me, that's okay. But I'm the co-founder of the Lifetime Miami Marathon. We thought this would be a good idea to basically cover three main things. One is bring the community together, even if it's virtually. Secondly, it's to gather some of the input to help us with not just the Miami Marathon, but the race industry in general, and whether it be local or beyond that. And then I guess then the last part, or maybe the first part really, is to share our current state of affairs. We're still trying to do our best to operate as an office and as a company, as some of the folks I'm sure that are on the screen are doing the same. So I will kind of go around the virtual room real quickly here and introduce our staff. So I guess I can let Alex go ahead and start first. You can say what he does and whatnot. So go for it.
Hey guys, my name is Alex DeGracia. I'm the regional event director for Lifetime Fitness down here in the Miami office. I'm responsible for the overall production of the Miami Marathon, along with all of our other races down here for Lifetime Fitness.
Awesome. Sam, you're next.
Hey everyone, I'm Samantha. I'm the marketing manager for the Lifetime Miami office. I handle all social media, email, website, outgoing communications, and some other portions. Kids run Miami as well. Anything social media is all me.
Awesome. And Jessie, you're up next.
Hi, I am Jessie Mejia. I am the volunteer coordinator for all the South Florida Lifetime events. And yeah, I recruit all the volunteers and hopefully have them come back the following year as well.
Thank you, Jessie. Maria?
Hi guys, Maria Lacey. My primary responsibilities with groups and charities. I also help a lot with athletes with disabilities and just making our race accessible and great for everybody.
Awesome. And I've got Mari, are you there? I think so. Maria Elena Lopez?
I'm here.
Yeah.
Hi guys, my name is Mari. I'm the event production manager. I handle all the permitting for the event as well as all the course operations.
Excellent. And Nicole, you're on as well. I think.
I'm here in the background. This is Nicole Bosick, who's the director of brand marketing for the event, and I am multitasking, so I'm not going to really be talking too much, but you're in great hands with the rest of the Miami team. Thanks.
Awesome. We also have somebody from our sort of satellite office. Carly, I know you're on as well from the Lifetime team, if you wanted to say hi.
Yeah, Carly Smolin here. I manage our expo for the Miami Marathon along with a number of other events in the portfolio. So just wanted to join in with the Miami team today.
Awesome. Well, I will take the liberty to recognize some familiar faces in the room. We've got the folks from Team Footworks and Lori and her gang. I guess they can wave as well. We can wave back at her. I'm trying to figure this one out. Josh is on there. I'm sure JP's somewhere here. I've got also, and one thing I will say about Lori real quickly is we've talked a couple times during these rather tough times, and she's thinking a lot about you guys, and I hope you guys are thinking about her and supporting local running stores and local businesses such as hers. So Lori, thank you for everything you've done and everything you're going to continue to do, because we're going to be at a start line and at your store soon. Thank you, Lori. I got Jose Sotolongo also on. He's with the Convention and Visitors Bureau. He's the guy who drives a lot of the sports and sport tourism events here in South Florida, most recently involved with the Super Bowl and obviously a longtime runner and a streaker. So thank you, Jose, for joining us. All right, real quickly, just the rules of the game or the rules of the race in this case. You can raise your hand. We do want this to be dialogue. I want you guys talking to us versus us talking to you. I'll guide the conversation a little bit. Be mindful that I'll hit mute on you if I think you've been talking too much, because we want to move this along. You can take a moment to familiarize your controls, but you do have a little waving hand. You've got a little emoji. You can do a couple different things to get our attention. If not, just on the group chat itself. That'll help kind of move the idea along. Like I said, this is idea gathering. We don't have all the answers. I wish I did. I would have had a vaccine already. I'm not a scientist. I'm not an infectious disease expert. I am, as many would say, just a runner and a race director. So I want to preface everything by saying that this is just collecting ideas and hopefully not creating any kind of hostile controversy here. We'll save that for Fox News and CNN, late at night. For now, just enjoy this as a conversation amongst community. Feel free to add your name on the actual box, just because it can show where you're from when you're speaking, and that way we can recognize people that aren't necessarily as familiar to us. And again, this is for all runners, not just race professionals. We really want to hear from the running community. All right, I did want to share with you the state of Lifetime. As you guys know, we are primarily a health club operator, so most, if not all, I think at this point still are shut down around the country. So we are a small arm of that company, so we've been indirectly affected, as have some of our satellite offices with regards to triathlons and bike races and everything else that has been affected throughout the country. So we are kind of, I would say, with a finger on the industry's pulse just by the nature of our extension of offices, but we are also in communication with other race professionals too. So, but going back to Lifetime's affairs, we are operating as an office, as I think many of you guys are, as best as we can. I popped in the office today to do this. I can't let go. I've been coming here for 20 years, and I feel, I'm sure the same as Lori and anyone else that's been in the same area for many, many years. So I also kind of want to share with you my position real quickly. I'm trying to be as optimistic as possible about things without giving any definite answers that everyone's kind of asked me. When do you think we're going to be back? And maybe kind of privately, I'll tell you, next week. But truthfully, we know that this is an indefinite. There's somewhat of an indefinite timeline here that we're still not privy or knowledgeable enough to make a great guess at this. We're watching the rest of the industry. The Bostons, the New Yorks, and so forth that are set to come before us. But it's anyone's guess, I would say, at this point. However, please know that we are actively planning as much as we can. I don't know if anybody had a chance to read Dave McGilvery's recent Facebook post. Being the Boston Marathon race director, he definitely leads the opinions out there. And one of, if you didn't get it from his post, he's dumbfounded as all of us are with how exactly to proceed in a way that is realistic and at the same time productive and enjoyable to you all. So, if you haven't had a chance to read his post, read it, because it does shed light as to where our event industry is right now. I do hope that all of this is pointless in a few months, but we're going to anticipate as if it wasn't, that this is all productive stuff to get the conversation going as to the types of things that race organizers need to address, because you guys are either worried about certain things or have ideas that can help not only address those worries, but better plan for the industry as a whole. So that's my intro. My last, and this is where I'm going to stop talking for a bit. My last thing is I do want to encourage people to keep running out there. I know that there's some folks joining us from places where you don't have access to even outdoors. I did an Instagram event last night with some folks in Colombia, and those folks are indoors once a week. They're allowed out to exercise. So I'm mindful of it. However, if you are allowed to be out and running according to your local laws, please, I use the acronym ROYO, try to run on your own and be mindful of whatever regulations exist, whether it's masked or not and whatnot, but let's not cause more angst or aggravation. I'm still coaching high school kids as best as I can. I am a father still, so I'm spending more time with them. And the other thing I'm kind of just venturing with is this Zoom stuff, hosting workouts and doing whatever I can to stay connected with the running community. So all that being said, that's my state of affairs, and hopefully some of you guys will share where you guys are at. So let's jump right into training real quickly here. I'm curious as our staff is, what are you doing to stay in running shape? And is it more miles? Is it less miles? So whoever wants to take a shot at it first, go for it. Jose, I pick you, so I guess I can unmute you. Yeah, there you go.
Thanks, Frankie. I obviously I live here in Miami, and I live out in Westchester, in the Westchester area. Normally I train in the Grove. Obviously, with a lot of the parks closed and the water fountains shut down, I've been training out in my neighborhood. It is not as attractive as the Grove is, obviously, but the mind frame is, if you want to run, you got to run, and you got to take it one step at a time. And I've been running my normal miles. Mind-numbing sometimes because of it's a concrete jungle, not as pretty as the Grove, but it is what it is, and you got to have the mind frame that this is just hopefully temporary, and we will get back to where we were training hopefully relatively soon. So you just got to you guys got to keep the right mind frame and just keep training, keep running one step at a time. Awesome.
Two more answers to that question. Anyone else want to take a shot at it? What are you doing? More miles, less miles? Who wants? I can see.
Amy, I'm going to put you on the spot if nobody answers.
Go for it, Amy. I just unmuted you.
All right, can you hear me or no?
Yes, we can. By the
Okay,
way,
so,
the space bar unmutes you instantly, by the way. So go for it, Amy.
all right. So, no, I'm doing the same amount of miles. I live in Pinecrest, so I'm running on my own. I don't see very many people, so it's great. It's a little lonely, but I drop into some of your Zoom runs. I am not good at running with my phone and Zooming with you, but other than that, I'm doing okay.
Awesome.
And I want to say hi to Josh Liebman and his Cinco de Mayo background.
I was wondering why you were dressed that way. Now it hit me, Josh. No, I'm kidding. Awesome. All right. Anyone else that wants to take a shot at it? I think I saw someone raise their hand. If not, you move. All right. Fernando, where is he? Unmute yourself. Go for it.
I'm here. How are you, team? And good. Thanks for putting this together and giving us the opportunity to talk to you guys. I've been running less in contrast with the other runners. I've shared the training here. I'm living here in Wynwood, in the Wynwood area. So not a big mileage. I had several races canceled this year, so I decided to take a break. And I have transitioned from the running to my bicycle, and I've been riding a lot Miami Beach area, Biscayne Boulevard from North Miami here by the Wynwood. It's just to stay in shape. To be honest, when we went through the peak of COVID, I was just indoor riding the bicycle, and when I went back to the streets, I felt a lot sore in my whole body to get used to that again. But definitely good, and try to keep in shape and keep going until the races are back.
Thank you, Fernando. Awesome, guys. All right. Second question. I appreciate that, Fernando. Second question. Anybody new into the sport that's on today? I'm curious as to how you got pushed into it. Anybody or nobody that's new to sport is brave enough to be on this town hall? We're good. Has anybody brought anybody new into the sport? I'm curious as you've been able to bring in a friend, a spouse, or someone you live with, obviously, because we are supposed to be running alone. Anyone?
This is Antoinette Murray.
Go for it, Antoinette.
So I am what you considered a fun runner. The longest distance I've done is really 5Ks. 2021 would be my first half marathon for me to be Miami famous. So this year, my goal was to start training for that. Like others, I've had several races canceled. I have future races that's probably going to be canceled also. I did run in the 3:05 race back in March. So I guess I'm new to the running community, but I've been running 5Ks for a few years now. And this year, my sister and I decided that we were going to increase our fitness level and set a new running goal. So we were supposed to run our first half marathon this year. So we'll see. So I'm here to see what the future holds for us.
Okay. Thank you, Antoinette. Thanks for sharing that. And we will call you a runner. So not just a fun runner, we're gonna call you a runner. Awesome. All right. If anyone else has any responses to that, feel free. All right, we're gonna move on. What do you miss most about being a runner? I want to get us into the mood here a little bit. Hopefully some of you guys are wearing your running shoes, at least in spirit. If not, you have to go to Lori's store right now and buy a pair. But the idea that, obviously we miss some community and so forth, but what else are you missing as a runner at this point? Anyone?
The challenge. I would say the challenge. In most cases, a lot of folks probably started training for a marathon or half marathon and, it got canceled. Just the idea of, running with other people that had that same mentality. I miss that.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, fair enough. Claudia, go for it.
Hello. It was for the last question.
That's okay.
So answer that one. So my husband is now training. He's not like so much into a runner, but he's been showing me like running, and he told me he wanted to start to run. So he's starting like little by little, so he can race. He can run a race with me. So I have brought him into running. I have run already 4 half marathons. All of them have been the Miami Marathon. And I miss, yes, training with more people, and the motivation of running with other people. They encourage you to run a little bit faster, to go a little bit longer. So I'm missing that, but I'm also good for now with the Zoom runnings. I think they have been great because I feel the energy, so it's really nice.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. One comment that was made on our chat was you miss water fountains, and that's a great point. And one of the reasons I think we want to have these Zoom calls is we also want to ready you guys for your training. If in fact, and we'll talk a little bit about this, but if in fact races are reduced to less water stations and so forth, you're going to have to kind of be your own camel, right? You're going to have to carry your own nutrition and your own fluids. So that's it's obviously a current challenge, especially in Miami. June, July, August can be brutal out there without a water fountain, but you might have to start learning how to carry stuff. And again, keep plugging Lori's store, but go in and buy the equipment necessary to learn how to do so, whether it's a belt or a backpack. So thank you. All right. Did I miss anybody there? Okay. Oh, Melina, go for it. And by the way, I got to celebrate you guys and thank you guys for keeping these answers pretty tight and to the point, 60 seconds. So go for it, Melina.
I'm definitely running a lot more miles because I have more time during my afternoons and mornings, but I definitely miss the run clubs. I used to go to Miami Beach and also Brickell, and I'm missing my Tuesdays and Thursdays with my group. I'm also missing my Team Ultra. Definitely something that I was looking forward to keep training the rest of the year with them. But it's okay. We're still in communication and up to date with what's going on, and it keeps us going. It's good.
Thank you, and we miss you too. The Pacers miss you too, and I'm sure all the run club leaders out there of the different areas of South Florida and throughout the country for that matter are just itching to get you guys back. As I think you guys have heard me say, we now appreciate each other even more. But thank you for sharing that. All right, we will move into kind of the meat of the town hall. Hopefully you guys have gotten into the mood a little bit and thinking a little bit more about running in general, and now move a little bit into running to train for a race and get that mindset on. I've said it before that for a change we're just running, but if you can kind of put that racing hat on for a second, or that training hat on for a second, that you're maybe already part of one of the training groups and you're starting to think that way. That's where I want your brain right now. So let's talk a little bit about virtual running for a second, because it's related to racing these days. Have you turned to any resources related to virtual running that have sort of helped you? Have you registered for a virtual race? If so, which ones do you want to share, and what you liked and disliked of those things? All within a minute answer. So go for it. See a hand. Dalia, is your hand new or is it? No, lower hand. No. Oh. Go for it. Anyone else? Nobody on the call has done a virtual race?
I have.
Me too.
Okay, which ones out there?
I've been doing the rock and roll marathon.
Mm-hmm.
Virtual runs. They have a bunch of them. They have like 2 or 3 per week.
Got it.
And I've been using the Nike training app to actually, keep miles and keep a competition with the rest of my friends.
Great.
Like an internal competition with the rest of my friends. So that's it.
Awesome. I see some folks there. Wings for Life. You got some of your
Wings for Life
challenge. Yeah, Wings for Life. I enjoyed the Wings for Life World Run. I did it myself, and I thought it was pretty neat. Is there anything that you guys are thinking that are missing from these virtual races that you'd like to share, that maybe as race organizers we could put some of our production hats on and do something about? real race directors, not virtual race directors, but real ones. Is there anything that the races are missing? Yes, Lori, go for it. Unmute, Lori. I just did it for you. Go for it.
Okay, hold on.
No, I did it. Oh.
So I'm curious what people are thinking about the virtual running. What do they want? Are they going to pay? Does it have to go to a charity? Do they want something from it? Do they only want to post their time? What are you guys looking for?
Runners, go for it. I see.
I can give you a couple. I would love to know if there's, you know, a lot of people run for medals. I happen to love the idea of getting a medal at the end, but I mean, if that's a possibility. And then the second thing, of course, is knowing what's our best compared to other competitors. I mean, other people who are running as well. You know, it's always a fun feeling knowing that you are either close to a particular person or close to a particular age, and you're 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the number is.
Gotcha. Awesome. Anyone else before I ask kind of a question to the group?
I would
Show of hands.
like to find more like motivation in the app, in the Wings for Life specifically. I think it was nice, but sometimes I didn't know if it was still working, my app. So I would have liked to have like each mile some motivation, like something.
This is going to be a bold question here, but would anybody never return to real racing and just stay with virtual racing?
No.
No.
way.
I miss people.
Never.
Okay.
No.
I
But
miss
Frankie,
the
Yes.
Frankie, can I share? Like, okay, so there was a thing called the Backyard Quarantine Ultra. Have you heard of it?
Yes.
That's the best example of a virtual online community that I've seen. They had like that Zoom thing going where they were showing the runners and tracking and streaming it on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, it like accumulated this like crazy, like viral following, and people really got the spirit of the finish, which I think is missing in the virtual runs, the like finish line.
Gotcha. Okay. And I'm glad you guys are sharing this, because some of, you know, as the race organizers that are in the room, we may have to really, you know, start to help innovate here as we wait this thing out. So I'm not suggesting that any of us are going to become only virtual race organizers, but I do appreciate the feedback. And that Amy, that last one kind of led me to the next question, which is there a crazy challenge that you guys have been a part of privately? And or not necessarily privately, but a smaller community, like, I don't know, your WhatsApp groups or maybe it's a Strava challenge that we can issue to the runners in the running community, the marathon community, you know, anyone want to share any? Yep. I see somebody. The one that comes to mind, I've seen this Run Across Tennessee challenge. You know, that's obviously a little bit more public, but is there anyone that's had anything local, or not local, but private, that they want to share? Okay. Yeah, go for it.
I'm doing, it's not local. It's a virtual race company called The Conquer. Their app is called My Virtual Missions, and you sign up for different miles. One mission that I completed was running the Inca Trail. So that's like a marathon distance, and you run it, you know, you clock the miles however you want, and there's an app, and there's also like a community. So you can see there's a map to show you where you are against the other runners, and you can either manually put in your miles each time you do it, or if you have a smart watch that uploads to the app. So it's not local. It's anyone in the world that wants to sign up for these different missions. There's about maybe 8 different ones. It's like running the Route 66 or the Alps to Ocean. So I've done that, and I like the app that they have.
Gotcha. Okay. I guess so we can close out the topic on virtual races. You know, is the virtual, and I'm here kind of leading the question in a way, or leading the answer in a way, is the virtual race option something that is important now for you to see in all races? you know, I don't know, let's say there was a local 5K that you'd like to see that option in case, God forbid, a hurricane hits or something like that, and then you can reschedule it for a virtual option. I see some emojis with thumbs up. All right, some nodding of heads. Okay. I appreciate those of you that are.
I don't mean to dominate this conversation.
Say that again.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to keep on talking, but because of coronavirus, I was introduced to 2 races that I didn't know it existed. So I live in Broward, but I was able to complete All-State Hot Chocolate 15K, and that isn't offered in Florida at all. And then there's a Wonder Woman race that isn't offered. The closest Wonder Woman race is in Atlanta.
Sure.
So because of the whole coronavirus, they've opened up, I guess, the virtual option. So I was able to participate in those.
Great. Awesome. So that's a good point. I guess one, you know, a couple of chat messages just to share. Obviously, mile challenges have become a big deal. One of the things we're talking about here is, because I also want to share some of our plans, is how to keep people engaged now that they can't necessarily meet up together. And these mile challenges seem to keep people moving as they train, hopefully, to eventually be at another start line or a real start line. So glad that some folks are still doing the 1K challenge and those kinds of things. So good to see that. All right, we're staying on the clock, which is good. Races, jumping right into real races. Have you registered for any physical race? Maybe I'm saying that right. A real race during the lockdown period. Is there anyone that has registered for a race and at any point during the last, I think it's been 8 weeks or so? I see a hand. Fernando, which race is that?
I registered for Wings for Life. Of course, it was canceled. I was also in the Boston Marathon, and I am in for the 2021 Miami Marathon as well. So keeping my fingers crossed for that one.
Yep, absolutely. I have mine crossed too. Who else is?
I registered as well for a few runs before the corona, but after the corona, I'm just waiting for. There's a race in October, a half marathon in October in Clearwater Beach from the Rock and Roll Race people that I want to do. They haven't opened any registrations yet because they are not certain that the runs are going to happen. So they say they don't want to, people registering too early and then having to return everything or having to change everything. So I'm waiting for the announcement of the opening again to register. I've been thinking about re-registering for the Miami half for next year. And that will be probably a thing that I'm going to do in the next couple of weeks.
Got it. Anyone else registered for?
Frankie.
Yes.
Thanks for setting this up, first of all. I actually, the only race I sign up is for the one in my hometown is Cartagena in Colombia. Obviously the tie, because I can't go right now. That's why I signed up. Hopefully I'm able to go by then. It's still in October, sometime around. And I'll sign up for the Miami Marathon as well, deciding between going again for the half or maybe the full, but only that one right now.
Gotcha. Okay.
Frankie.
Yes.
It's Scott here.
Hey,
I think
how are you?
I'm good. You excellent, mate. I think one of the questions a lot of people would have is the standard cancellation policy to register for races right now. I did notice CIM, which is the December 5th, they were one of the first races that I've read that is offering 100% refund guarantee if they cancel. I registered for San Francisco, which was supposed to be in July, and Chicago. San Francisco has postponed till I think it's November now. Chicago, we don't know. But I think a lot of the questions in runners' minds would be the standard cancellation policy is there isn't one. You don't get any refunds if you cancel. So people to register for marathons right now in this sort of time, it's a bit risky for money, I suppose.
Yeah. And I guess that's a perfect segue to the question what makes you comfortable, not only racing, we'll get there in a second, but what makes you comfortable registering besides a refund policy? Is it, obviously having a transfer / deferment? Is it something now that you would say, all right, you know what, I need to commit to something, I need to register for something, but I'm not going to do it unless they do X? Is it just refunds, or is there something else that you're looking for from a comfortable standpoint? Besides, before we get into the safety of it, is it just refund driven?
From me, I mean, obviously, schedule is important. Obviously, I pick races that work with my schedule. So if, just say hypothetically, you had to cancel Miami in January and you moved it to March, and it was like either you move or you lose your money. It depends on people's schedules. So everybody has different scenarios. For me personally, I travel a lot, as you know, for work. So I schedule my races around my schedule. So a deferral to a later race would depend if it's flexible.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. That's I know we've been asked already a couple times on Facebook and here on a chat, whether or not we would consider changing the date of the Miami Marathon. It's not on our radar screen to do so at this point. But I think it'd be dumb of us to say no to anything at this point. So, it's certainly within the realm of possibility. And as far as refunds are concerned, just want to let you know, Scott, and let the group know, we're still trying to formulate our policy in such a manner that is not only fiscally sound, but it also is not too disruptive to the industry as a whole, because we do feel like locally we've got, not only locally, but as an industry, we also have something to keep in mind. Now, and this is part of the town hall also. We opened registration a couple days ago, and lo and behold, we had a lot of people register. The race has close to 5,000 people already registered. So people want to race. So I think that's hopefully music to Lori's ears, to Steve's ears, and anyone else from the industry that's listening. It does at least give us some comfort that people want to get out to the real start lines and finish lines of this world. Anyone else before we go into what makes you comfortable with an actual race itself? Anything on, okay. What would make you comfortable, price, refund, all that discussion aside, to join a real starting line and cross a real finish line? Shoot away.
Frankie, thinking about queuing up, and I read the article on Facebook, 20,000 people in corrals. Obviously, a lot of people, society thinks that's crazy in today's world, just because you go to a concert, you go on a cruise ship, you go on a plane, everybody's like scared. Hopefully 6 months down the line, a cure will come out and this won't be an issue like you mentioned earlier. But in the interim, I mean, queuing up, maybe everybody has to wear masks as they queue up and just dispose of them when the gun goes off, corral by corral. Maybe there's a longer gap between the corrals because there'll be a hell of a mess of thousands of masks all over the place, but it'll be just like people throwing off their shirts and stuff. So I think queuing up can be solved through masks, and really that's the issue, people coughing and spluttering and the saliva getting out there. There's obviously a lot more down the road as you run the race, which I'm sure you'll come to, but that would make me probably more comfortable if it has to be that way.
So it's safe to say Scott used queuing up. I'm going to assume this means the corrals and the start line. So I guess the start lines is what's driving or I shouldn't say your hesitation, but will eventually drive your decision to consider racing again. And by the way, we're not planning on doing anything rogue. I want to put that out there because someone said, well, I'm only going to do whatever the government says. We're going to abide by CDC. I mean, they wouldn't give us a permit, right? This is assuming all those guidelines are met. We want to be proactive and have a plan to give to them when the time and if the time comes. We do feel like we are somewhat, as many races as there are, this is somewhat of a different business model than a stadium or arena and whatnot. So we definitely have to kind of be a little proactive. So thank you, Scott, for that. What else besides start corrals would you need as a strong, I guess, adjustment or reason to feel safe?
Frankie, couple questions, couple comments. On terms of drawing masks after the start, that might be a little dangerous for the people who have to collect after us. So I just wonder if you can do something like a buff or something that you yourself responsible for your own buff or your own protection, and don't pass it to somebody else to collect that for you. And the other thing is the water stations, how those are going to be handled. You're grabbing the cups, or can you have something that you can fill up your own container or something like that you can, if you step on the hole or on the some button you can stand on and then fill up your own bottle and then continue.
Absolutely. Anyone else? We'll just so you know, the order we're going to follow here. We're going to jump eventually to the actual race course. So, is there anything else that, if a race tomorrow were to come online and all things at the CDC were giving the go ahead to things, you were to look, okay, does this race do this to make me feel safe? What is that? This is it health screenings? Is it what is it exactly?
The health screening is an issue, Frankie. I mean, we were talking about this for my business as well. They may come out with an instant test that you can tap the forehead and decide whether you have this virus or not. Maybe that is something on the packet pickup. Everybody's screened for temperature. I mean, like the other day when I went to get my tag renewed, I had to go into the office, and there's already a temperature check as you walk into the tax building. Maybe that's a way, or testing, so when you pick up your packet, you don't have it.
Gotcha. Okay. Anyone else? What sort of screenings would you be okay with? Is it a pre-race survey? Is it right before you get into the corral? Is it only at the expo? I mean, what sort of things where do you draw the line?
I mean, the question is how contagious will this disease be in 6 months' time? If it's an entry to the corral, is there a security guard there testing you as you walk in the corral? Because you could catch it in the evening after the expo. Fair
enough. Okay. Anyone else out there?
There are other things, but of course you have to consider the budgetary aspect of it. If you can include a disposable or reusable face mask in order to get in the corrals, that's something that you can start thinking about a little bit. So that will definitely make me feel safe that the organizers care about the runners, because they are providing exactly what the runners need in order to avoid any infection or any disease.
Gotcha. Good point. Okay, to keep moving into Expo itself, is the Expo a non-negotiable for you? In other words, if the Miami Marathon tomorrow had to do away with the Expo, is that just a game changer for you? I mean, I will preface this by saying that we are having an Expo and Carly's on as all systems go. But if we couldn't, because the Expo Hall is still a hospital or whatever, I don't know what the reasons would be. Would you do away with it, or sorry, would you not race?
Frankie, if I could jump in, the Expo is an integral part of a race, for the camaraderie of it, for the ability to keep up with the latest things in the sport. It is not it's not something that you have to have 100%, but you just mentioned that if the expo halls are hospitals in January or February, if we're still dealing with expo being hospitals in January, we got bigger problems.
Sure.
Let's I don't think it's a game changer, but I think an expo is extremely important.
Okay, good enough. That's fine. I see some heads shaking both ways. This is good. Go ahead. Anyone? I guess hands up if you would do without an expo. Okay. All right. Fair enough. What would you be okay then with your packet being? I would assume then you would be okay with your packet being mailed to you, right? Okay. Yeah. This past year we had a lot of folks take us up on that option, and we didn't have COVID at the time, or we didn't know about it at the time. Anyone have a problem with their packet being mailed to them? Okay.
From a question though, from a business perspective, last minute registrations, how will you deal with that?
That's on our list. Absolutely, that's something to consider. Yeah, we took a packet pickup option up to a month prior to the event, and that actually Nicole's on the call, so she'd probably love to say something about or ask folks about when they would register for the event, because our concern is people waiting till the day before the race. I'm gonna, I don't know if you wanted to, no, she can jump in a second, but one thing about the field size for this upcoming year, we are looking already to reduce it to 15,000. So if the race is filled, you may not be allowed into the actual event. So how late into the registration process would you wait? Go for it, Lori. Just unmuted her.
I think that would be awesome if you were limiting it. That we have that luxury at the corporate run. Our fields are full, and we can close it off beforehand, and then we can work on the event, so much better. If you're waiting, until the last minute to get more entries to help pay your expenses, that makes it so much harder. So the limiting it might be something very positive this year for you in the Miami Marathon and any events that we're doing.
Gotcha. Okay. And Lori, that's obviously a race director's dream to be able to, close registration, a little sooner. That's what we're looking to accomplish. Not because it wasn't necessarily related to COVID. It had more to do with addressing the size of our start line corrals, them being too crowded, and the complaints we've gotten throughout the years. So that was one reason we wanted to enhance the race experience.
Of course, what goes along with that is you're not getting more entry fees. And
correct.
The entry fees are really, we have sponsors, yes, but the entry fees really, help pay for the events. So that's a negative, but if you can plan it in advance, you can manage it.
Gotcha. Expo itself, would you guys be okay with staggered entry to the expo? In other words, packets 1 to 1,000, you can only come between 8 and 12. Show of hands, you don't have to tell me. Okay. That's something that we've heard the industry is exploring. All right, let's move into race start for a second here, and we're actually 5 minutes ahead of time, which is good. Race start. We already talked a little bit about the start line, so we talked about the corrals and so forth. One thing I did want to throw out there is realistically how much room. Let's just say the CDC said, hey, you know what? Social distancing guidelines are reduced. We don't have the same requirements. It's 3 feet now. Would you be okay with that? The reason I say that is that we read recently the LA Marathon, if they adhered to 6 foot distancing, the start line would be 4.7 miles long, from the back of the corral to the front. So help us think through this. You've said you would wear your mask at the start. Would you stay in your car and wait till the last minute to jump into the corral? So in other words, be called away from another waiting area. Would that be okay? Or did you want to be in that excitement of the start line?
Frankie, if I jump in for a second, if normally there's always a delay between the first corral and then the last one. So what it keep people from going directly to the corral and waiting 20 minutes sometimes, or 10 minutes or whatever, is scheduling the corrals in a way that you can jump into your corral like 5 minutes before your start line. That would be a good idea, so you don't have the everybody at the same time in the same place. So you can, and people can actually figure out timing better.
Okay. Any corral designers out there? What would your ideal corral look like? 500 people, 100 people, 10 people, a row? What would it look like?
I would do a wider one than the one that we have on the race, because it's only Biscayne Boulevard. So probably not only taking the north side of Biscayne is the whole avenue, which is going to be easier for all the runners to stage. And also I will support the idea that was said before me of scheduling the corral. So if I'm scheduled to start, for example, at 6:50, to be there no later than 6:40 or 6:35, so I can get in the corral, a wider corral, and start right away. I know that there is a bottleneck right at the start of the race. I do know that that's a challenge, but that's something that we can manage if we have a wider corral.
Is there anyone opposed to starting earlier, like say an hour and a half earlier?
Yeah, I don't think that would be a problem. I think it helps with people ending a lot earlier and freeing up a lot of space.
Okay.
I agree. Earlier is fine.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, obviously, you know, our sun up here is about, I'm getting this right, about 7:10-ish or so. So the race starts a little bit after 6 for some of the runners. So you'd be running in the dark for a good period of time if we started much earlier. But it's good to know that you guys are willing to sacrifice a little bit of the light. All right. So I heard wider. I heard you guys are okay with masks, or some folks are okay with everyone at the start line having masks. It seems like that's starting to become an accepted behavior. Anything else start-wise so we can move on to the next area? You guys. Yes.
The one thing I do want to say is that out of all races I've ever ran, the Miami half, the Miami full marathon is probably the one of well-organized marathons as far as the start line and, you know, the corrals.
Thank you. Some folks disagree, but we're gonna keep. I'm gonna take yours.
What a compliment! Compliment! Yay!
Thank you.
Appreciate that. No, we are trying to make it better. We know there's a choke point, and everybody has a slightly different experience. You know, if you're all the way in the back or you're in the front, I mean, everybody seems to have something to, you know, to be critical of. It's one of those areas that for 18 years we just can't nail for all 20,000 people, but we're gonna try. We're gonna keep trying. All right, on to the course now. What's that?
I just, Frankie, one last thought. I don't know if you guys have any templates that you can put, like where exactly the 6 feet, you know, if you can diagram that on the floor.
Okay. Yeah, no, yeah, much like when you go to Chipotle now to pick up your order or any place, it seems like they're putting, you know, things on the floor. Yes, that's a good one. Thank you, Elizabeth. All right, let's move on to the course. How would you handle on-course physical distancing if that was a requirement? You know, you're out there and, you know, you're passing people, you're drafting from people, you're weaving in and out. How would you handle that if you were in our position or one of the race organizers' positions?
Run at your own risk.
Run at your own risk.
I agree. I mean, if you're racing in a marathon at high speed, let's hope you're healthy.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one to really call out, right? Because anyone could move into any. When you're running on top of someone, or you're running next to someone. You could stop at any time, so it's very hard for you to gauge, right? Run at your own risk.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I mean, we struggle with telling people to stay to their right and so forth. We thought about maybe a fast lane, everyone be designated, painted halfway across. This is the only side you can pass on, but just wondering if anybody had any bright ideas. By the way, this will all be up on, we're going to save this and put this up. We're also streaming it live on Facebook. So you want to go back into this later, you can. And we're also taking our notes. We've got our staff on board, those of you that joined on a little bit late. But if you have an idea that you're like, you know what, I thought of this, feel free to email us, message me. You guys can get a hold of us a number of ways. This is what we're doing now, gathering this kind of stuff. All right.
Frankie,
Yes.
some closing thoughts. I mean, maybe just have, when you give the instructions for the race, give some guidance on what exactly would be safe running during the race, some guidelines, because not everybody's at the same level. Are people perhaps coming from other countries? So maybe just have a general, if you're, what exactly is 6 feet? What exactly is 2 metros? What are you looking for to have a safe race? So just guidance.
Sure. Guys, I'm gonna mute everybody because some of us have been unmuted, so you guys can see if I can figure out how to mute everybody in a second. If not, just go ahead and mute. I trust you guys.
Frankie, one point. Going back to your original question just moments ago about the starting corral. If you were to open up a window, let's say an hour and a half window for people to arrive and run at their discretion, that will obviously reduce the number of people on the course drastically. Sure. And another one which came to mind just now is if you split the half and the full start times, maybe the half starts, and especially if you're going earlier, like you suggested, maybe the marathon starts, I don't say hypothetically 5, and the half marathon started at 6:30. Then you would definitely split the packet up a heck of a lot more, and then the number of people on the road will be a lot less.
Got it. Yeah, I see some emojis up there. And by the way, spread the news that the full marathon is the less crowded one on the second half, so maybe more people will do the full marathon. That's a good one, Scott. Appreciate that. What's the right size race for you guys? Is there a number? Like, I know that as race organizers, we know numbers, but do you guys have a number in mind that you would be like, hey, you know what? That's a good size. That's too small. That's too big. Is there a number that you're thinking? We've already thrown out, by the way, those of you that joined in, we've already thrown out the fact that we are looking at a 15,000 cap this year. Is there a number in your mind that would say, hey, you know what? I want the race to be this size?
I think all things considered, this is the most international marathon that is, that it's also very popular in the United States. When you really look at the amount of people that come from South America, 15,000 sounds about fair, right? All things considered, I don't think that's a very big group of folks. I mean, the only time when you see that group of heads is in the start of the corral. By the time you get to the middle to the end, we're all separated.
Good point.
I concur with that. I mean, whether it's 15,000, 25,000 or 5,000, it's still a lot of people together at one time. So I don't think really to set a number on it, unless for limitations on your perspective or legal, I don't see any difference between 25,000 or 15,000, really. It's just people together, masses together. I mean, I've been at the start line many times of races, including Miami, and it's very, very busy, of course it is. But if we break it up, limit the start times, then there'll be less people at that moment you're there.
Will any of you need to do a smaller race beforehand to feel comfortable and remove some of the fear? Are you going to have to kind of go do a 1,000-person race or a 500-person race? No? Okay.
I'm planning on jumping on a marathon as soon as I can.
I agree.
Because I'm feeling that.
I don't have anybody in the chat that's afraid. Come on.
There's masks. We got camel bags. We're good to go.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think all being runners, we are pretty healthy people. We are not afraid of just a little virus.
Frankie, you asking about being afraid. I think the only concern is that being that this is an international race, standards of care are not the same everywhere in the world. So there may be elsewhere that I don't know if they had to quarantine, that those kind of things sort of I always think about. Then again, I have some medical training behind me. Anyway, so I don't know what's going to be the impact for the international runners to participate in the race.
Yeah.
Being able to travel, being able to be here, do they have to quarantine? Can they just jump on the race?
Yeah, that's a good point, Elizabeth. And for those of you that may have your ear to the industry, there's discussions of certain races being locals only. There's discussions of all sorts of limitations, not just because the groups can't get there, but just because people don't want you showing up to no-name town in the middle of America somewhere and bringing in COVID, and so that's a real concern for sure. And I'm sure Jose Sotolongo, he was on the call I think earlier, or may still be on. He'll probably be the one dealing with that kind of stuff as the CVB hears those concerns too for all kinds of things here in Miami. All right, let's keep the conversation moving. We are about 15 minutes from wrapping things up, so I wanna be mindful of everyone's time. How would water and aid stations look? We touched this briefly a few minutes ago, but are there any ideas you guys want to share?
Frankie, when I ran the London Marathon a couple of years ago, they handed out bottles, big bottles. I mean, in my opinion, it was the worst danger going because people took a swig. It wasn't Gatorade, it was Lucozade, but they took a swig of it and threw it. So this bottle was 75% full, and there's hundreds, if not thousands of bottles everywhere. It's a big trip hazard. I know it's been recommended bottles might be the way to go. Environmentalists think that's a bad idea. But from a perspective of safety, from drinking, yeah, bottle was safer. But from trip hazards, it's a nightmare from my perspective.
Okay.
Frankie, there is a races called vacation races.
Yes.
They don't allow cups. I mean, they don't have a water station as we're used to. They give you have like a water pouch, and when you get to the stations, you fill out your own water pouch. It's not a big bottle; it's just a little thing in here. So what I was trying to think of is like when you wash your hands, you step on a pedal and the water comes down. If you had some sort of like Miami thing that's small that you can get close and step on and fill up your own water and go, or so you don't have cups, so you're saving the environment, and on the other hand, you don't have people water, or maybe I don't know at what level we're gonna be in general.
Yeah.
If I can jump
ask a question. I'm sorry. I'd love to ask a question about the water coolers at the circle that we usually put out. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Okay. What do you guys think about that? Can we put those out again, or will we never put those out again?
What do you guys think? You guys, those of you that don't run in the Gables or in that kind of South Coconut Grove area, Lori has for years been putting out and doing a tremendous service because there weren't any water fountains or anything of that sort in the area. So she'd been strapping them, I think at one point, to the benches and to a bunch of different things. How do you guys feel about those coming back?
I would love to see them.
You wouldn't?
I would love to see them come back, and everybody brings their own bottles for that. I mean, and there were cups. It would be good. I don't think it's unsafe, but that's me.
And also, I think, again, that goes back to individual responsibility. If you're not comfortable, don't take any. And we now have those paper cups, which are biodegradable, we're putting out. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's such a disservice when we don't put it out there. But on the other hand, it's like, oh my God, all you need. I mean, Hans came up with the idea a long time ago to tie wrap it at the top. So if you ever see that it's cut, then somebody could just, you know, poison the community by putting something in there. So he says, okay, we'll tie wrap it. It'll be safe. And that's how we've always done it. And I feel if it was me and I was out walking on a Saturday and the coolers were there, I would take a drink. You might not, and I respect that. But what do you guys think?
I would say there could be an option once you sign in for the race to add to your package a water belt, so you can bring your own water belt, fill the water already, and then having probably those stations with the coolers, so if you need more water, you can fill up your water bottles, and we don't have to risk anybody.
Sure.
Or actually, you know, I know the Miami Marathon is going greener every year, so it's a good idea, you know, like, okay, add to your registration, add a water belt, you know, with the Miami Marathon theme, like, you know, Miami famous thing on, and people will buy it for sure.
Got it. How about camelbacks? You guys run with camelbacks?
Yeah, I was just about to add camelbacks. I mean, there's a lot of alternatives that you can leverage. The camelback is definitely one of them. The water belt's another. People can. There's Amazon hand bottles that you could carry as well. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can leverage while running a half marathon. A full marathon will probably be a little bit different. But I mean, those are solutions.
I appreciate that. Just want to give you, Josh, you had go for it, Josh.
Yeah, quickly, if you don't
mind.
mind.
Wait, I had to be in Cinco de Mayo. Yes, go for it.
If you don't mind, I just want to touch on a few things quickly, and then I have to jump. But first, Frankie, thank you for organizing this. Thank you, everyone, for participating. Happy Cinco de Mayo, and don't think I'm not wearing this to the City Commission meeting in about 20 minutes. Amy, thanks for the shout out. Marco, soy paisa. So a couple things. You mentioned a virtual packet. There's some people, I understand Jose Solongo's point, but it's part of the experience, especially for the newer runners, but it's also an obligation of the sponsors. The race generates revenue from all the exhibitors, but there's certainly a contingent of people, especially locals, and going forward, at least initially, the majority of participants will be local, at least a higher percentage than previously. They'll appreciate not having to go to the expo. But my concern is, and it's a question of what percentage of the participants are international, but how much is that mailing going to be, and is it going to be reliable? You asked a question about virtual races, and I know this is obvious, but the biggest things that are missing aren't just the shirts, the medals, the aid stations, it's the camaraderie, right? And that's what people miss most, in my opinion. And then in terms of, you asked, and by the way, those are fantastic numbers, 5,000 people, optimistic people that registered. That's just fantastic. That blows my mind. And it's a good sign for everyone, both the industry and runners. But you asked what's missing and what people would need in order to register today. And that's something that we can't provide. In my opinion, that's certainty, right? And that's out of our hands. That's in all forms of local government. And then just a few marketing ideas. I know, but it's that's not the point of the conversation, but ultimately it is to engage everyone. And I look at Lori's background there, and I think it's very symbolic of a bridge, because there was a time when there's no bridges, and that's really why we're here. How can we get from this side, to the other side? And a couple of things I was thinking of. One thing I suggested to you before is running's contagious. Another thing, Frank, you're very good at social media and engaging people online. It's, I'm running the Miami Marathon, or I'm running the Miami Half Marathon. What's your post-COVID goal? So you engage people and commit them to running the event, and then also you open up to everyone else to say whatever their unrelated COVID goal is. But that's a way, to quote something you said earlier, to get people invested in the race. Let's start talking about post-COVID goals. And then lastly, and I'll give credit to Lori for suggesting this, but some people have sort of alluded to this where they realize they're not, but a giveaway instead of a shirt or medal could be a buff printed with the marathon logo and the sponsors. And that way you're taking care of the shirt, you're taking care of the sponsors, and you're encouraging people to run responsibly. And then it's something that they can take home and use again.
Thank you, Josh. I didn't introduce Josh properly at the beginning, but he is a commissioner at the city of South Miami and has been he's newly re-elected commissioner, and he's been serving us not only in the running community for many years, but also has been serving us in the political realm as well. So thank you, Josh, for sharing all those things. I was going to ask you one question about virtual. How about the integrity of the race? Is that something that's missing? And I have Steve there looking, because Steve times races, and he knows that the race timing world has sort of taken note of the technology enhancements. But what is integrity one of the things too, Josh?
You see integrity, you can answer that question a lot of different ways. For example, right, Jessie Ruiz, is that time?
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to. Yeah, that's what I'm referring to.
Oh, and is the race downhill and so forth in the treadmill? Beyond that, it's how do you engage people? How do you differentiate your race? And what makes Miami Marathon unique is everything you guys do. And every virtual race is essentially the same, just depending on the distance.
Okay. No, can I say that, Josh? Right. I don't know if you've experienced them, but right now it's an honor system, basically. So
right.
Don't have a direct.
I honestly find all runners to be honorable. And to that point, one thing that's great about your industry and our industry versus others is all runners are highly motivated and goal-oriented. So if anyone can see the light at the end of the tunnel and press forward at certain times, it's us, because we know how to set goals, break those big goals up into smaller goals, and work through it. And now we're just depending on the rest of the world to be comfortable participating, and for government to open up those barriers.
Absolutely. Thank you, Josh. All right, guys. I know you have to go to your commission meeting. We are about 5 minutes from wrapping up. I did want to finish with finish line. What would you still race if there were no spectators at the finish line? Is there, I know that runners, we say we run for ourselves, but our number one complaint is not enough spectators at events. So would you still race if there were no spectators?
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
I would. Who cares about that? You're doing it for yourself. But I know most people are not like that. They want the medal, they want the spectators and all that. But, let's go back to ourselves. The hard work is its own reward. And I mean, who are you competing against? Just doing a better time for yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
Frankie, one thought is that sometimes it's not so much about us, but we have family, we have friends that, I love to see you at the race.
That's true.
I mean, if there are places or there are opportunities to have video where people can not only follow you on your time, but also on your video. I mean, I know universities do it for graduation because they only allow a certain amount of people. So something similar, along the race course, or maybe I don't know, the finish line or something. So
no, good point.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was going to back up what Elizabeth said. I mean, you got to look at it, the fact that everybody's running for something, right? Or it may have been their first time, and that's such a huge accomplishment. So, when you have someone that can capture it outside and root you on, it's such a fantastic feeling.
Yep. Yeah. Go ahead,
Thank
Steve.
you.
Or someone else, I don't know. Yeah.
Frankie, Marco. I think it's part of the excitement having people. My first race was Miami three years ago, and coming back into downtown, going south to Bayside, all the people there cheering you, they don't know you. It's part of the excitement. I think it gets you through the finish line. So I think it's part of the experience that people enjoy, especially here in Miami.
Yeah, and to be clear, we're not kicking out the spectators, but we're just saying if we couldn't have them at the stands there, ask them to spread out along the course and keep social distancing. I guess that's where it was going, but you bring it up, Marco, that I don't want to lose that. So maybe I'll have to pipe in some crowd noise to make up for the lack of it. But awesome. Yeah, Steve, you had your hand up.
Yeah, it's I've said this for years that running is both solitary and group, and we can run anytime, anywhere. We don't have to pay anyone or follow a specific course. But when we pay for the experience, and the crowd is a big part of that. So I get the reason behind pulling spectators out, but yeah, we do run for ourselves. But man, that finish line, that's coming through and seeing the people cheering, and it just gets me going. You asked earlier, what do we miss? I miss 3, 2, 1, go, and I miss the cheering as I come to the finish line. So that that's the thing I miss the most. And
Yeah.
I don't want to give that up.
I can't wait to hear another national anthem at a start line, to be honest. They seem ceremonial and just common and whatnot. I'd love to see Lori screaming at the top of her cherry picker at the start of the Purple Run. I'd
Can't
love
wait for that again. Yep.
to hear Javi at the start of our races. Yeah, it's making me sad. How about the finish flow, guys? Is there anything you would do to the finish flow that particular to Miami, keeping in the context of the Miami Marathon for a second, that would speed things up or make you less anxious or make it more safe? Yes, Steve, go for it.
The thing I think that would make everyone feel safer is very difficult, especially in Miami, but geography. We could have a larger area for people to kind of still be a part of it all, but without being so confined. As you know, the field gets pretty packed, especially coming through the chute, which I think we can manage that part. But when they're done and it's the after party, it's that celebration afterwards, I think people would still want to be a part of that if they could have a little bit more personal space. Regardless, I mean, we have to pay attention to whatever CDC requirements are and so forth. And I think it's really hard. How do you get the same number of people in a larger space where you have water in a road? You got no more room. But I think geography would help. Beyond that, I don't know. Limiting things and making people have a limited amount of time is the only other things that come to mind, and neither of those are really desirable to me.
Gotcha. Okay. Anyone else? Finish flow, the Miami Marathon. I don't know. I'm going to throw a controversial idea for a second. Hey, you get your medal somewhere else. It's given to you in a little bag because we can't put it over you. Your food is still in a box. Get your bottle, get out. All those things are being discussed in the industry. Is there anything else you guys want to add?
If you extended the Biscayne Boulevard by another, say, 100, 150 meters, and just had a straight flow to say where the bag drop area is, and then guiding people back to the park that way, and just keep on pushing people through. The medals, yeah, you can pick up the medals somewhere else, or you could send them to people at the end of the race if they complete. You don't have to. I mean, yes, it's great to have the medal over your head, and everybody loves that. But again, if it's a safety issue and you're not allowed to do it, then send the medals afterwards.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be upset with that.
I think the backdrops can be moved to the, like the after party instead of being on the same place as you finish. The medal, you can probably leave the medals hanging, and each person, what somebody just supervising that each runner gets just one medal instead of handing hand to hand. The food in a box is a good idea. I think anything that is not plastic will be great, being a little greener, but anything that will keep us safer, it will be good. I think that the best idea is to put the backdrops so people don't get too crowded, pushing to the backdrops while the runners are coming, because this year was everything was like in the same place.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Anyone else? We're gonna come close to wrapping up here. I appreciate everyone. Before I wrap up, anyone else wanted to add something for the good of the cause? Something we didn't touch up that you wanted to share before I make my closing statement?
Just Frankie, a couple of things. I don't know if you have done this. Have you polled your previous year runners? Maybe do a survey and see what their comments are, especially people coming from outside of Miami.
Sure.
What would constitute, and what would be some of the limitations that they would have, and also see some of the experience of people who have had to cancel races and what they've done.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's good advice. We will be doing some shape or form of this in Spanish. I've been getting a lot of comments about it, and my Spanish isn't the greatest, so that'll be fun to do. But I will do something to gather more feedback. That's what we're trying to do here. Open up the dialogue. For those of you who don't know, we've been having conversations with local race organizers here too. We're going to keep doing that as well with Matt from A1A, with Lori, with the folks at Multi-Race, the folks at at the timing companies, and just keep having further discussion. I wanted to recognize Claudio, who's on, just real quickly. I know he jumped in. He's a first responder. We thank you for doing what you're doing out there. And even last night, his efforts for the Miami Marathon were showcased on it was Univision, right? That showcased his I don't know how many, 500-600 firefighters that are now finishing the first responders that are finishing the Miami Marathon in the name of all the fallen firefighters due to mental illness and suicide and whatnot. So thank you for doing that, Claudio, and thanks for joining us.
We'll be there next year.
Yeah, he'll be there. That's good. Yeah, we have a call soon to talk about next year. That's good. Well, I wanted to wrap up, with my quick closing statement here. I truly believe that because we operate outdoors and we get creative and innovative with our solutions, we can be on top of the list of things not only allowed to reopen, but more importantly, appealing to the community as a safe experience. That being said, I'm not in denial that the situation is an uphill climb, and we certainly can't say we know it all. I do think that logic and common sense has to prevail, backed by what the experts in science guides us. All of us in the industry have been affected. Runners are resilient, as someone had said earlier, and so are the race organizers that serve them. Dave McGilvery's statement was a bold admittance recently of how hard this is all for the race industry and event professionals, and I agree with him. But luckily, there are some really smart people involved in our industry, as well as some very smart runners out there to add to the mix. So I appreciate you sharing a lot of your input, because we're going to need more of it. With everyone's combined input, we can diminish the fear. That's a big one. Encourage personal responsibility, and in turn make some events you all will enjoy further. Modified, but enjoyable. So let's jump in to constructively and honestly help us fill our bucket of ideas, whether it be to Lori, to race day professionals, to split-second timing, to any of the folks out there. This wasn't a forum for doom and gloom. I hope we leave here with the spirit of wanting to go on a run and be at a race soon. We got the media doing plenty of the scaring. We gotta fight back with exercise. Let me be clear: we don't have 100% playbook or operations plan for the Miami Marathon in the current situation, but we will have one come January. And anyone that tells you that they have it all figured out is lying to you. This is all new to everyone. We will need to pull ideas from all industries, not just the race industry. So that's concerts, games, travel. So my job and our job as a staff is to keep all those new runners running, keep you guys as veterans, some of the folks that are on this call today, running for a long, long time, and to be at races and running stores for years to come. So thank you for joining us on behalf of the Lifetime Miami Marathon presented by CBD. This was our first town hall. We hope you enjoyed it. And I look forward to seeing you guys out on the run. And please wave, even if it's under your mask. So take care. Wash your hands. We'll see you later. Don't stop.
Thanks, Frankie. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.